So we're here on Rich Conversations talking to Dr. David Rothmund, historian, writer, great friend, just all-around fantastic individual. We talked about writing the last episode.
Yes.
Tell me more, elaborate more where you're at right now and your process.
So, like I mentioned, the last time when we talked, I was pretty much done. I was doing a few small edits here and there to my prospectus, which is basically just the outline that you have to defend of, like, what will my dissertation become.
Remind them again what your dissertation is on.
So my dissertation is on the long disability rights movement, specifically on the social, cultural, and political rise of disability following World War II to the passage of 504 in 1973, and then I go a little bit further to 1990 with the passage of the ADA, but mostly it's 1945 to 1973. And I've taken a special interest in left of center, local grassroots politics and newspapers, and interestingly enough, the relationship between sports and disability, specifically the relationship between basketball and disability. So after World War II, when veterans are coming back and they're going to college, they're getting their degrees and they're trying to be students, but they also want to participate in ways that they could before. So they try and join some of these intramural sports leagues, and oftentimes are denied. So then they take it upon themselves to create a lot of these wheelchair sports teams, these wheelchair intramural teams. Once that starts, it prompts people with disabilities from birth who are at school to be I also want to do this and participate in this league. So then they start to join these teams, and then whenever you have a group of people who have this like-minded philosophy, right, you start to see a lot of real change. So at U of I, there was a huge intramural basketball team, and those students, they didn't just play basketball and go to school. They became activists on their campus. They prompted the school to make a lot of the dorms much more accessible, the sidewalks much more accessible, and now U of I is one of the more accessible colleges in the country due to both the veterans and the students with disabilities who kind of co-opted together to create this vision of what higher ed could be. Wow. So that's kind of a long-winded answer to what you asked, but
so you're writing, you're doing research this summer.
A lot of research.
What do you have going on this summer?
So I'm getting
research.
I'm getting up to Wisconsin, Madison, and U of I in July. It's the second and the third week of July, I think.
Good.
I'll be back for Taste of Lincoln, so no worries there. And then I just
Taste of Lincoln, by the way, is a street festival. We shut this street down where you've heard all these vehicles whizzing by, right? We shut it down. We have vendors, and everybody just has a good time.
Yeah, live music. It's great.
Yeah.
If you're in the area, you should come see us. It's great. Highly recommend. But and then in August, I just have to figure out the exact dates for it, but I'm trying to get to California, Berkeley, in August before the semester starts back up.
So how are you going to get to Berkeley? Are you going to fly? Are you going to drive?
That's part of the planning that I still need to hammer out. I love driving. I would love to drive. It is a very long drive.
That's a long drive.
If I could drive, it would allow me to potentially stop briefly at other places where I don't think they have a ton of sources, but one collection, a couple folders here or there. If I fly, it'll probably be cheaper, especially with gas prices currently. And
oh yeah,
I'll be able to spend more time at Berkeley where there's really the greatest number of material that I need. So I'll probably end up flying and just renting a car out there, but we'll see. It would be nice to be able to stop at a few other smaller places on the way, but we have to cross that bridge still. So
yeah. Have you been to Berkeley before?
I have not been to Berkeley. I've been to San Francisco, which is just across the bay. I've heard that it's a gorgeous campus, so I'm very excited that I get to go.
Fun fact, I've been to the campus at UC Berkeley.
Yeah.
And I've been on the campuses of University of Washington, University of Oregon, University of UC Berkeley, USC. Those ones I have. And Berkeley is cool because it's up on this hill.
Yeah.
It's just like on this hill, and there's these weird looking trees. This was like the first time I was like west of the Mississippi River. So to see at University of Oregon, there's these massive evergreen trees.
Yeah. That's cool.
And then in Berkeley, there's like these palm trees, but they kind of look like what I would imagine like in Greece.
Oh, interesting.
Like trees like that or a little bit. But I remember going into they had like a paleontology building.
Oh,
and
cool.
there were some dinosaurs there. That was cool. Just walking around. It wasn't open at the time, I don't think, but the campus mainly, or school.
Yeah.
In that session, but no, it was during finals, I believe.
Oh, okay.
But beautiful campus.
Yeah.
So you're going out there, going up to Madison.
And then I've done research, a lot of local stuff. I've done some stuff in Charleston, South Carolina, and some stuff up at the University of Georgia. So once I finish the research for this summer, these trips, there's only a few other places that I'd really like to get, and a lot of those collections are smaller, so I might even be able to have them just send me stuff instead of having to get out there. The other like biggest one would maybe be New York, and that still is like a we'll see problem depending on where this like relationship between small left of center presses and then the Communist Party papers at NYU, how much I can really tease out there. I still have to do more with that. But other than that, most of the research will be done. I'm right around 100 pages into the dissertation from what I already have. It'll probably end up being around 300 to 400 pages, cover to cover.
Okay, so then at what point do you say, I have enough research?
That's the problem of a historian. And it's one of the hardest problems that we like have, truly. Because no matter what you do, you don't have enough research and there's always something else. And the second you publish, there's 100 people who are telling you that. So everyone wants to critique and say, why didn't you look at this? Why didn't you do this? Like, why didn't you go to this place and look at these papers? And it's like, because I didn't have time and money to do everything in the world. I would love to, but you just don't have the time. So how I kind of approach it is, in my brain, I have an idea of like what this narrative will look like based on the research that I've already done and from the research of what I know is at some of these archives. And then once I go and I get to sources, I take a lot of time with them. I really sit down and like read them over and over again, think about what like every word means in the documents. A lot of it is personal papers from people, so I try and get the best sense of like what is this trying to say and how will this help me. And then I see the story kind of grow from there. And I luckily with the prospectus, that's kind of your like dip your toes into the water and have an academic story in the field tell you, is this a good idea? So once that was successfully defended, it was like, okay, this proposed question that I've put out into the world, other academics agree that it is a good question and that it's a valid question that should be explored. So now how do I kind of fill in the gaps with the research and find the right puzzle pieces?
Yeah.
There's not a really great answer to that because the true answer is there's never a good stopping point. Eventually you just have to get out. You just have to be done. And that's the sad answer, but